Hello and welcome to this video tutorial guide for installing the TIE Fighter Total Conversion or TFTC version 1.4 for X-Wing Alliance. This video aims to give you a complete guide for installation, setup and basic troubleshooting to ensure the smoothest experience possible. If you still run into any further issues that this video cannot help you with, then please do join our Discord server or whatever else we might be using depending on what happens with Discord, and the community will do their best to help resolve your issue. Plus, it's a fun place to hang out too, so why not join anyway? You can also visit our website at www.tiefightertc.com, which also has a complete written guide to installing the mod, along with all sorts of useful information about the project as a whole, such as a complete list of keyboard commands, joystick profiles, lists of included ships and stations, and a detailed overview of both the TFTC Classic and Reimagined campaigns. Before we get started, let's quickly make sure you have everything you need to get up and running. You're going to need 50 GB of free space on your C drive, a valid copy of X-Wing Alliance, and the X-Wing Alliance Installer Manager downloaded from the XWAU website at www.xwaupgrade.com. A link to the XWAU website is also on the TFTC website. So, let's go through this list in more detail. First off, you must make sure that you have sufficient disk space on your C drive. Even if you intend to install both the game and mods on a separate drive, the combined XWAU and TFTC installers use your Windows temp folder to extract the contents before copying to the game folder. This means you need an absolute minimum of 20 GB of free space before proceeding, and up to 50 GB if you're installing everything to your C drive. If you fail to do this and you have insufficient space, the installer will fail midway through the installation process. If you are unable to find sufficient space on your C drive, there are methods online which allow you to change the location of the Windows temp folder to another location. A link to the guide can be found in the description. Please be very aware that you modify your system at your own risk. The TFTC team takes no responsibility for any system modifications you make that may cause unknown issues or other problems for you. Next, you will need a valid copy of X-Wing Alliance. You can purchase a digital copy of X-Wing Alliance, which can be often on sale for just 3 or 4 quid, from Good Old Games, Steam, or Origin, or you can even use the original 2-disc CD version. For maximum compatibility, we highly recommend you choose Good Old Games as your platform, as with Steam in particular, it can potentially interfere with the installation process or mess up game files after the fact. The game will also crash if you attempt to run it directly from Steam, as it refuses to work with the Steam overlay, preventing the game from running. If you do end up purchasing or having a copy from Steam or Origin, always run the game directly from the game files or a mod provided shortcut. Do not run it directly from either platform or their provided shortcuts. We also recommend after installing the game to copy the entire X-Wing Alliance folder to another location of your choice. You can make as many copies of X-Wing Alliance as you like and put it on different mods or versions if wanted. This can save time if you need to do any reinstalls in the future and prevents other programs or any read-write permission access issues depending on the installation location. As previously mentioned though, there is also the original 2-disc CD version of the game. This will also work but requires an additional installation step. It will be necessary after installing the game to copy the contents of the WAV folder from both Disk 1 and Disk 2 to your installation. If you do not do this, you will encounter an error when attempting to install the mod regarding missing files, and the installation will fail. One final important thing to note is regarding antivirus software. Some of these programs may detect 1 or 2 of our DLL hook files as a potential threat to your system. These are false positive reports caused by overzealous antivirus scanners because DLL files can be used to inject code into the executable files, which is exactly what our files do with the base X-Wing Alliance executable in order to add the various modern functionalities, fixes and features we've added to the game engine over the years, such as ray tracing, bloom, HDR, VR support and so forth. We want to assure you that these files are perfectly safe for your system, and every single one of the DLL hooks we use are open sourced and freely available on GitHub for anyone who wants to examine them, the link for which is available in the video description. You can also upload any suspected files to VirusTotal, which uses dozens of different antivirus softwares to scan a file and report its status. We recommend, if you're having any antivirus software issues, to exclude the X-Wing Alliance folder from any scans or active protection, though you do so at your own risk of course. Alright then, prerequisites out of the way, next up, installation. So let's first install the vanilla version of X-Wing Alliance. As mentioned before, we highly recommend the Good Old Games version for best compatibility. Once X-Wing Alliance is installed, it is always good to run the game at least once to ensure it's working okay. Great, the game is installed. Now to install the other mods. Previous iterations of TFTC prior to 1.4 have, admittedly, not been the most intuitive things to work with many steps having to be performed along the way, creating a barrier for some people who are just looking for an easier installation process as opposed to doing several different things before they even get to play. Well, thankfully the XWAU team have managed to simplify the entire process. Now, pretty much everything is handled by the XWing Alliance Installer Manager. This tool will list all available mods and patches for both TFTC and XWAU. Once you pick your mod, the manager will make the appropriate copies of your game folders and start the whole installation process for you, and also has some safeguards to ensure that you can't install the wrong version of the mod or install any patches in the wrong order. This should all hopefully make things a little smoother for getting TFTC up and running, so let's go through it all in detail. Download and extract the XWing Alliance Installer Manager to a folder of your choice. Anywhere is fine, it doesn't matter, and then run the file XWA Installer Manager.exe and allow Windows to run the program when asked. You will then be presented with the following window asking you to select your vanilla XWing Alliance directory, so where you first basically installed XWing Alliance to, and then a new empty folder for where your modded installations will be copied and installed to. Please make sure these folders aren't in a protected system area such as program files, otherwise it may cause complications during installation. After you've done this, simply click on Save Settings and you should be good to go, and the manager will now populate with all available downloads of XWAU and TFTC. Next, we need to install XWAU 2025 and any subsequent patches it has since released. As of the making of this tutorial, XWAU is on version 1.1.0. You will first need to install version 1.00 and then the 1.10 patch. The name and version numbers are listed, and the manager will have prerequisite conditions in place, so you can't just install 1.10 without 1.00 first. This helps to prevent people installing things in the wrong order. Click on the download buttons on the right hand side, and then once they've finished downloading, click the install button. A window will pop up asking you where you want to install XWAU to. By default, it should be the empty folder you first picked for modded installations. A new folder will be created here once you accept the location with the XWAU 2025 install. The manager will then copy the entire vanilla XWing Alliance folder over to this location, and then once completed, the XWAU 2025 installer will pop up separately, and you can just click on next a few times to install the mod. Repeat this process for version 1.10 and any future subsequent patches. We don't anticipate this process will change much, if at all in the future, however we will update you if it does. With XWAU 2025 now fully installed and up to date, it's time to repeat the whole process but for TFTC version 1.4 now. You may notice though you've got two different versions of TFTC in the Installer Manager, Classic and Reimagined. Well, what does this mean? Well, in brief, TFTC Classic is the original TIE Fighter in all its glory, or as close as we could get to it, offering all 13 original battle campaigns, all 28 combat chamber training missions, and even the original demo mission with all the original story, dialogue, voiceover files, and in-flight audio and gameplay that tries as closely as possible to mimic the original game. TFTC Reimagined, on the other hand, is a remake of the classic campaign, but much grander in scope, imagining how the original game may have looked like with more modern technical capabilities that the early 90s just couldn't do. It currently offers only 9 of the 13 battle campaigns, envisioning a far more expanded version of the original TIE Fighter story with larger battles, new voiceovers, expanded story and dialogue, and significant gameplay differences to Classic. The remaining campaigns are still currently in development. Between both Classic and Reimagined, there are 154 unique missions to play through, so it should keep you busy for a while at least. Anyway, let's get on with it. As of the making of this tutorial, there are no extra patches for TFTC 1.4 yet, so you only need to download and install the version you wish to play, or install both versions. It's up to you. Like before, once you click install, the manager will pop up asking if you want to install the mod to the default mod folder you chose, and it will give a folder name of TFTC-R or TFTC-C depending on your version, but you can change this to whatever you like. Once selected, the manager will create a copy of your XWAU 2025 installation, and then the TFTC installer will pop up once completed. However, there are some additional installation options here with the TFTC installer. For Reimagined, this is just limited to soundtrack options, but for Classic there are several extra gameplay options you should pay attention to before completing the installation. By default, the intended settings are selected for Classic, but these options give you some freedom to alter the gameplay of TFTC Classic to a degree which can alter the game's difficulty and balance. Once you make your choices, you can proceed with the installation. Once installation is completed, that's it, you're ready to go. Just find your installation, run the launch manager, alliance.exe, and off you go. Previously, you had to use the Palpatine Total Converter to swap and activate the different mods, but this is no longer needed, so the tool has been completely removed. Please bear in mind that you should not run the game from the X-Wing Alliance exe file, as this will prevent the newly added 64-bit side process containers from launching with the game. These are necessary for much improved game stability and performance. But other than that, we're done, and you're ready to play. So let's move on to some post-installation topics, tips, and tricks. In the game launcher, there are the Configurators menu, which contain two tools that allow you to modify a variety of gameplay and performance settings for both XWAU and TFTC. The TFTC configurator contains the options during your initial installation process, so you can change them back or to other settings as needed, plus a couple of other extra options. The Babu Frick configurator is the main XWAU tool to adjust a large number of options within the game, such as VR settings, graphical effects, control options, and more. The README file included with the mod has more details on what each section of the configurators do, so please consult there for further information. If for any reason the installer manager is not properly downloading the packages, you can manually download them. The XWAU package is on the XWAU website, and likewise the TFTC ones can be downloaded via ModDB or via our website directly through download links. If you are manually downloading them, you will need to save or move them after saving to the folder Installer Packages in the Installer Manager folder. All downloaded zip files are stored there, and this is where the manager will read the files and consider if it's downloaded or not. If you have any further issues with the installation process, the best thing to do is to join our Discord server and to request help from our tech support channels there. So apparently some of you have VR and might be wondering, does it work for TFTC? Well, thanks to the XWAU mod, playing TFTC in VR is certainly possible and has been optimized and improved considerably. We will briefly cover how to enable and use VR, but a more in-depth tutorial can be found on this GitHub page, the link for which is in the description of this video. You can also join our Discord server and ask for assistance in the VR help channel. The community is very helpful and will do their best to resolve any issues you might have. TFTC does not have any specific requirements for VR. If other Steam VR games run fine in VR, you should have no problem in running it in TFTC. The process to configure Steam VR properly for each head-mounted display is slightly different depending on the vendor or model. However, you always need to make sure that you have Steam VR installed in your Steam library. Remember though that you must run Steam VR without running Steam itself, as running the game through Steam will cause it to immediately crash. You just need to create a shortcut to the app in your desktop or taskbar, or launch it from your Start menu and never through the Steam interface. There are currently two ways to enable VR. One is to use the Babu Frick configurator. To access this, run the game launcher and select Babu Frick configurator, select Customize the VR options in the VR head tracking choices section, and choose Use Steam VR option. The new effects this introduces also has an inertia effect for the cockpit that makes it lag relative to your ship's movement. This can be quite unpleasant to some people and can even induce nausea. You can disable this inertia effect in the Customize Dynamic Cockpit section of the configurator. You can also enable or disable VR quickly by modifying some configuration files found in the root folder of your X-Wing Alliance installation. These can be opened with either Notepad or any other text editor of your choice. The two files you need to modify are vrparams.cfg and cockpitlook.cfg. The specifics of what keys you need to find or add are in the description of this video, or on the screen in front of you. Some extra things to bear in mind and consider. The X-Wing series of games includes a lot of keyboard controls. Almost every key serves some kind of function, and there are also key combos. It is vital to learn some of these in order to become an effective pilot. If you head over to the TFTC website, of course which links are in the description below, you can find a page which lists all available keyboard commands, as well as extra ones we've added over the years to accommodate new functionalities. XWAU and TFTC support a wide variety of different joysticks and controllers, but there can still be some issues in getting these to work properly, particularly with various throttle and axis binds. If you wish to tweak your joystick or controller settings, the XWAU mod contains a community-built configurator which allows more modern HOTAS joystick and controller support and configuration. We have collected several pre-configured profiles for you on a variety of different joysticks and controllers to download. The link for this repository is in the description of this video. Even after setup, a common issue is for the player to find themselves endlessly spinning or rolling about. First, be sure to disable the rudder in the in-game menu, which can be accessed by pressing the escape button, and then in the joystick configurator, you can also modify the axis controls here as well, or even bind an axis to a non-existent controller ID in the configurator to stop some rolling or spinning issues. If you are having issues with any of these, you may want to consider these three third-party configuration tools: VJoy, Joystick Gremlin, and HidHide. These three tools allow you a lot more fine control over joystick profiles and allow you to create new virtual joysticks that will map to any function you need that the game may not allow for normally. If for some reason you don't have a joystick or even a controller, the game can be controlled purely by keyboard and mouse. To do this, use the Babufrik configurator to turn on joystick emulation and set the mouse sensitivity. You can even just use the keyboard if you want. If you still find yourself facing issues, please join our Discord server and head over to the joysticks and controller section for assistance. The community will be happy to try and help and resolve your problems. As previously mentioned though, if you wish to alter some of the settings of the mod or XWAU in general, then you can use the Babufrik configurator to change these settings. This includes access to the extra graphical effects that XWAU provides, such as bloom effects, head tracking, VR support, and even more. It is also possible for you to make more advanced tweaks to the graphical settings of XWAU and TFTC without using the Babufrik configurator. The files bloom, ddraw, and ssao.cfg are found in the root folder of your XWA Alliance installation and give you a great deal of control to a wide variety of graphical options. Additionally, if you are wanting to use something other than 16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratios for ultra-wide screen monitors, you can edit the file hooks.ini and set your resolution settings there. Remember, these settings may be overwritten when installing future patches, so make backups of them if you do make any changes. If you press the escape button in-game, you can access the game's regular options including difficulty levels, if you want to cheat a little, and various sound sliders to get the right balance that works for you. Along with all the main Tour of Duty battle campaign missions, we also ported in all 28 training missions and even the 1994 demo mission for TIE Fighter as well. These can be found in the combat simulator under the button Training Missions. These missions will unlock as you progress through the campaign, so you will have to complete up to 28 campaign missions before you can play them all. When in flight, if you do not wish to use the dynamic cockpit, you can disable it by pressing the period or full stop button, and then by pressing the D key, you will get the classic XWA Alliance interface up. One final shortcut tip that will not be immediately obvious is when you are flying the missile boat in later campaign missions, you will want to use its slam capabilities by pressing the K key. Remember, the slam system takes up your laser energy reserves, so keep them charged in order to keep it running. Oh, do you remember that old mechanic where you could speed up time in a mission so you didn't have to wait so long between moments? Well, the XWAU team have also managed to reintroduce this as well. You can simply activate time compression by pressing the Ctrl plus Q keys together to speed up time. You can also press Ctrl Q again to bring the game back to normal speed. Be careful on pressing Ctrl A though, that will slow everything down to a crawl, and as with speeding up, simply pressing Ctrl A again will return you to normal speeds. And that, my friends, should cover most of the basics. If you require any further assistance, please do hop onto our Discord server and request help in our tech support channels. You can also mail us at tftcproject@gmail.com. Otherwise, load up the mod, and good hunting, pilots.